It may be 2020, and even though we still have a long way to go, acceptance of trans people is greater than at any other point in my lifetime. However, we've come to a point where our basic rights as human beings who just happen to be trans are under threat like no other. 1 year on since the World Health Organization declassified gender dysphoria as being a disease, trans rights are in a global recession. A quick glance around the globe shows that most governments still deny trans people the right to change their name and gender from those that were assigned at birth. And a quarter of the world's population still believes that trans people should not be given full legal recognition of their gender identity. Hungary recently removed gender recognition for trans people. All references on official documents to sex have now been replaced by sex at birth. So apparently trans people no longer exist in Hungary. And then earlier this year, a third of Poland was officially declared as an LGBT-free zone. And then we come to dear old Donald. What's that I hear you cry? Is that a collective groan? Yeah, I know. I weep for my trans friends in the US. I really do. As the Trump administration have just removed anti-trans discrimination laws, meaning that health organisations can legally refuse healthcare to trans people just because they are trans. But we can't be complacent here either, as the UK continues to fall down the European rankings of LGBT plus rights that it once used to stand right at the very top of. And in the last few days alone, a leaked report in the Sunday Times showed that the government plans to make life much more dangerous for trans people, with their response to the long overdue review of the Gender Recognition Act 2004. Rather than focus on the remit of the GRA, our Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Equalities Minister Liz Truss seem to have been hijacked by the very vocal and anti-trans campaigners by going off on a complete tangent about an entirely fictitious issue of trans women using female-only spaces and being a danger. To date, there have been no reported attacks on cisgender, that's non-trans women, by trans women in female-only spaces in the UK. If such evidence did exist, then you could bet that the anti-trans lobby would be shouting it from the rooftops. The leaked report says that the government proposes to legislate that access to single-sex spaces will be determined by one's genitals. Now think about that for a minute. That would mean that cisgender women and post-op trans women could use the ladies' loo, while pre-op trans women would be forced to use the gents' loo, at a time that they are at their most vulnerable during transition. But interestingly, also pre-op trans men would be forced to use the ladies' loo. I wonder how the anti-trans campaigners would feel about that. I shouldn't imagine they'd be very comfortable. Additionally, who would police this new law, and how would it be policed? Would we be forced to flash our bits at an attendant before going to the loo? If not, would it just be down to looks? But then that would trigger an enormous amount of anti-trans, hate crime, and also attacks on cisgender women too, who happen to look more masculine, have a more masculine haircut, or wear more masculine clothes. This proposed legislation is unworkable and it has to be stopped. So as a trans person or as a trans ally, what can you do to help? Well, you could write to your MP. You could write to Boris Johnson or to Liz Truss. You could write social media posts. You can like, comment on and share supportive posts whenever you see them. And finally, you can educate positively and with a smile. What better way could there be of showing the world that trans people are just ordinary people who want to be safe, loved and happy, just like everyone else. So be proud of who you really are and rise to this challenge, as the safety and happiness of our trans brothers and sisters depends on it.